So first of all, who is here because they've been feeling a bit flat, low on energy? Anybody? Yeah, low on energy. And who is here because they've been feeling like symptomatic? So joint pain, stiffness, brain fog, yeah, headaches, back pain, digestive issues, yeah, IBS, diverticulitis, Crohn's, the whole host of digestive discomfort. It can be the more typical ones, the acid reflux, constipation, all of the things that we've mentioned, high blood pressure, worried about type 2 diabetes, right? I know that I'm mentioning a lot, but they're all exacerbated by the way we're feeding ourselves. Okay. And you could look at it this way. They're exacerbated by the way we are being fed, because it would be wonderful to think that we had complete control over the way we feed ourselves. But who does feel that way? Who feels they are completely in control of the way they feed themselves? No, exactly. And so, big point that you'll get from this workshop is that we're in this position where we are not because it's our fault through our choices, but because the pressure's on us and how we're being treated like puppets, really, by the modern food industry and the convenience industry, and how we're hooked on convenience and quick eating and fast eating and, street food, and everything that we're being fed isn't doing us any good. And so what I'm going to do today is I'm going to show you some slides, which are some theory, biology, human evolution, my history, some case studies, which will, by the end of this session, you will all completely understand how and why it's the way we're eating that is causing most of our health concerns. Now, I'm not saying that genetics don't play a part. Of course, your genes play a part. We all have very different DNA. Really, the point that I'm making as by way of introduction is, if you are here for any kind of energy or health issues, or even if you're somebody that just wants to maximize longevity, yeah, does anybody know what percentage your genetics is responsible for your health and longevity? 80% is a really good guess. It's actually 40% is genetics and 60% is lifestyle. Now, we don't know that exactly, but that's based on some of the books that I've read on longevity. That puts a new spin on things, because how many times do we hear, oh, healthy eating, boring. It's like, oh, who wants to hear more about healthy eating? It's confusing. It's overwhelming. It makes you feel guilty. Anybody else? But when you try something that I'm about to show you, that has been tried by hundreds of thousands of people over the world and with huge success, a way of eating that unlocks the secrets. Okay. So even when you follow mainstream healthy eating, if you eat the way the NHS tells you, if you eat the way your doctor tells you, if you eat the way all the gurus tell you, it might make some improvements. But in order to get the dramatic shifts, it's important to feed the human body the way it evolved to be fed, which means we have to look back, not just a few hundred years where we were eating less ultra processed food. Yeah, that's a good big step. But in order to get the extreme, dramatic, impressive, life-changing transformations, we need to go back further. And I'll open some slides and all that will be revealed. But just before we go any further, let's have a little welcome to everybody in the room. If you're available, would you like to introduce yourselves? I'm just wondering if Venetia would like to start, because Venetia, you are not new to my workshops and my work in general. Just a quick intro as to why you keep coming back to my workshops again and again. For anybody that's never met me before, I can still say I'm 54 for another 6 days. 2 teens, 18 and 20. Ruby just got her A-level results today, and she's done really well, and she's got to Bristol Uni, which is a delight because I live in Cardiff, and it means that my both kids are within an hour. Sean's in Bath, live here with my hubby and 2 cats, and the kids are going to be coming back home at, an end of term. And yeah, I've always been a lover of life. I've always done exciting things, adventurous things. My mum used to call me Intrepid Sue. I love the freedom that life offers. When you've got family, you've got friends. I love food. I love to have fun. And I love the freedom that that gives me. However, on the next slide, you'll see that I didn't always have that freedom. I thought I did, but you will see how much my health and my weight was holding me back before 2020. And when I had this health transformation that I wasn't even looking for, I just couldn't believe what was possible through changing the way we were eating. I just couldn't believe just how much was possible. And I thought to myself, why doesn't the world know this? Like we've already picked up on, why doesn't the world know just how much is possible when you learn how to eat in the right way? And so I immediately jumped on the coaching program before I even completed my 90-day program. And I have since gone on to become a master health transformation coach, one of 12 in the world who are certified to teach this method that I teach, that Venetia briefly mentioned. The past, these photos perhaps don't show me at my biggest, and none of that really matters. But the most important thing to get across was that for me, I thought I was doing great, always busy, running big events. Apart from being fun and adventurous and doing loads and loads of things, what you didn't see was, apart from the obvious weight gain, you didn't see necessarily how fatigued I was, because I tried to hide it. The afternoon slump was so bad that I would actually take myself off to the toilets in the office just to have a little nap on the loo, just like on a cubicle with my head on the kind of toilet paper thing, just trying to get a 10-minute nap in the afternoon because I was so fatigued. Afternoon slump every single day, and I just thought it was normal. And then cravings were largely to do with the afternoon slump. You're feeling like, oh God, I'm so exhausted, I need to get some energy from somewhere. So what do we turn to, Amanda? What is it for you? What did you turn to in the afternoon? And midnight cravings.
Yeah, it's often actually midnight. Yeah, like late afternoon and midnight cravings.
Yeah.
I'm a biscuit monster. Comfort. Yeah. Sometimes savory. Crisps
Yeah,
as well can be one. But yeah, I don't crave carrot sticks.
exactly.
I like carrot sticks, but they're not what I crave when I have the slump cravings.
Exactly, because crisps are available and biscuits are available. Now, if you take yourself back to hunter-gatherer world, now if our ancestor was in need of some energy and she found some carrots, it would be like, oh my God, carrots. But these days, carrots, when there's biscuits, it's all relative. Kate says, I often eat with the children at 5 as I feel that is important. Absolutely, Kate. And then I get hungry later on in the evening and you crave sweet things. That's absolutely right, darling. Now, Kate, I will show you on a future slide how eating early is a really good thing, but we're probably not eating enough of the right things all day. That's probably what it is. It's not just because you're eating early, my darling. It's because you're not getting enough nourishment inside you for the rest of the day. Largely, that's protein. Brain fog. I first experienced brain fog when I was pregnant. I think, that's pretty normal. I do wonder how different that would have been if I knew how to eat when I was pregnant. But then in my late 30s, 40s, brain fog came back. It was perimenopausal brain fog that came in there. Absolutely, there is no judgment in this room whatsoever. There's certainly no judgment in any of the work I do. It's all about releasing guilt. Guilt is for another world. We don't do guilt. We don't do judgment. Any of the should words. Should, regret, disappointment, beating ourselves up. We don't do that. In fact, I coach it out of you. What we do is objectivity, cause and effect. So yeah, there's certainly no judgment in this room. I love seeing the comments. And then I noticed the stiff, achy joints. And that started coming in my mid-30s after I'd had my kids, and I started noticing the stiff joints. And everybody says, oh, well, after you've had a baby, you expect a little bit of this and a bit of that. And then right through my 40s, stiff, achy joints. And I would seize up. I was like, oh, why am I so stiff? And when you've been sitting for an hour and you try to get up, was like, oh, it's not natural, everybody. Nature didn't design us to be stiff and achy just because we sat for an hour. It's the food. I know this now. Tiredness. And this still upsets me when I think about it. My kids, I mean, which kid doesn't like a bedtime story? We used to prioritize bedtime reading. I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. Kate, I'm wondering how you are feeling when it's the kids' bedtime. Do you get the same thing? My eyes would just, they wouldn't stay open. And I would start yawning uncontrollably, trying to read to the kids. So what I did eventually was I didn't push through. I just used to hand it to their father, and that, more recently their stepfather, and the men in my life just took over all the bedtime responsibilities because I couldn't cope with it. I was so exhausted, and yeah, irritable. Me too. We can't help but be irritable, Kate, because our blood sugars are all over the place. We're fatigued, and the good news is it's all to do with the way we're eating. Okay, so that's the good news. So Kate, you're in the right place, my darling. And yeah, the weight gain, and I didn't feel like I looked like me in the mirror. I am very curve positive. I'm a curvy size 14 now, and I love the way I am now. A little bit more than I would like to be carrying, but I'm going to deal with that. But back in those days when I was a particular size, that just, it felt like I was looking in the mirror and I had a, some people have described it as you feel like you're wearing a fat suit. Now, I don't like how fattest that sounds, but honestly, that's how I felt. I wanted to just take it off. How can I get this off me? Because it's not me. It wasn't the real me. I didn't feel authentic. I think for a lot of people, there was a huge amount of pressure from the modern world to be thin, to conform to a certain shape and size. I'm very curve positive. But when you know that you're carrying more weight than is allowing you to be your true self, that's when you know you want to do something about it. Two very different things. And I had failed every diet going. Ever since I was 14, I've been trying to diet. Back then, I did have a skewed sense of what was healthy. I was trying to diet to get into a certain size back then because I was not living in acceptance, because I was the biggest in my class. Looking back, I was fine. I was a little bit less than I am now, and I was fine. But yeah, I think maybe this, when you start off on the diet path, it just builds and builds because you end up depriving yourself and you gain more. You actually end up gaining more weight if you've tried to diet. You end up putting it all back on again because they're not solving the problem. And the problem is our food relationship and knowing how to eat so that we don't need to diet. So there they all are, some worse than others, but none of them work for me. I was even a intermittent fasting.
Can we just jump in on that slide?
Yeah, please do, Amanda.
I've tried some of those, and I know people who have tried others or doing other things. And it's also the constant monitoring, like the incessant, close monitoring and tracking those, that is not something that I want to spend my whole life. I asked my sister recently, she's lost weight doing loads of fitness stuff, but she counts every single calorie every day. And she said, oh, it's the only way I can keep the weight off. And I'm like, that's not something that I want to spend the rest of
Yeah.
my life doing. If I think about how many F's it was, like fun and family and freedom, that doesn't feel like there's freedom in that.
If it works for some people, great, but it doesn't feel to me like freedom, constantly counting and tracking. That's one of the reasons I couldn't do it. In fact, Zoe, much as I love them, is constant measuring and tracking on an app. And the bizarre thing is that if you have a pre-made meal, like a ready meal, something ultra processed, that's easy because you just scan the barcode. But if you make something from scratch with onions and garlic and ginger and soy sauce and paprika, and it's impossible because you've got to put in all the individual ingredients. I couldn't do it. So yeah, we were looking for freedom beyond the constant tracking and measuring. Absolutely. And some other reasons why dieting left me feeling like a failure. We do not base success on weight loss. We base it on how well you're nourishing yourselves and how good you're feeling because of that. Those are positive things to measure. And how integrated it's starting to get. These are the things that we measure and celebrate, as well as hundreds of non-scale victories like better skin and better energy and better sleep. And it taught me to cheat. just to try and get a weight loss. My dad once told me, oh, if you start in Slimming World again, me and mum were starting it again. He said, why don't you on week 1 put some stones in your pockets? Put some stones in your pockets, because then on week 2, you'll be slimmer of the week. You know, it's silly, isn't it? But people do cheat. They find ways of cheating. I mean, it's just all pointless, isn't it? But the big thing is that it ignored the emotional reasons for eating. I mean, most of the reasons why we eat what we eat are actually not nutritional, but emotional, right? So if you're eating a lovely stew or a chicken salad or something really healthy with protein and veg, that's for nutrition, right? But if you're eating anything else at all, crisps, sandwiches, pizza, it's either because we are feeling, we want comfort, we want instant energy because we're low, or we want for social reasons, or we're stressed. We've got another slide on emotional eating. And these are real, true, very real things, right? But dieting ignores all of them and just assumes that you can push through all of that and follow the diet, which is bizarre to me, how much time I spend talking about emotional eating and finding strategies to overcome it. The revelation that I had in 2020 is that there is a way of eating where our bodies evolved to thrive. And it's much more like that picture than the current picture, which is supermarket aisles and food outlets. So it's the modern food environment is the problem. The other thing about the revelation was that it explained why I was feeling like a failure. The modern food environment was making me feel, and the modern diet industry is making me feel like a failure. They're putting pressure on us to think it's our fault. And it goes deeper than that as well. But I'm going to press on. But there's a deeper issue there where the modern food industry is making us believe that the obesity crisis, the so-called obesity crisis, is a lifestyle choice. So there's some dark stuff going on with the modern industries. Amanda says, my afternoon cravings feel hunger driven and my late night cravings feel emotionally driven. Yes. Anybody else notice that? It's really interesting. When we come to the 6 human hungers, you will see it more clearly. But every species on the planet has its own naturally evolved, species-specific way of eating. So just think about how elephants eat. They tend to suck up a lot of water through their trunks, and they would be consuming some small fish through that and a lot of plankton. And lions, we know, they're tigers there. We've got prey, raw meat, right? And what parrots eat and what sheep eat. We know roughly what these species eat, and they thrive in their natural habitat. Unless, of course, they're misadventure. But generally speaking, the way they're eating is supporting them to thrive. Now, what happens if you take an animal out of its natural habitat where it's eating to thrive and you put it in captivity? Let's use the example of the poor elephants in this picture that are taken away to the circus, and we try to feed them with an industry created food. The lifespan of that elephant drops from something like 70 years to 17. You know, it's less than half, possibly even a quarter of its lifespan. But what's really interesting from our perspective is the symptoms that poor creature develops. Arthritis, mental ill health, and believe it or not, obesity, because we're feeding the animal with industrial made food rather than its natural species specific diet. Our diet is different, but we have a natural human diet that we evolved over hundreds of thousands of years, even millions of years in our different forms. But certainly we've got to go back to 100,000 years ago where we were hunter-gatherer, before the agricultural revolution, where we started farming. Before that, when we were hunter-gatherers, scavengers. And when we look at that, that's how as it turns out, when people eat that way, they thrive. And so the symptoms of the modern food environment, in the same way as the deer elephant, but with humans, what we're seeing is, and this is where I started off, Most of the symptoms that I see people presenting with when they come to me on their discovery calls are symptoms of the modern food environment. Of course, it's not all of them. We've got the genetic ones as well. Chronic inflammation, which largely shows up in joint pain and stiffness, digestive disorders, high blood pressure. We've got metabolic ill health, like diabetes, insulin resistance, leads to weight gain. But we're also seeing things like in younger women, polycystic ovarian syndrome and other inflammatory conditions, but also the mental health, low mood, anxiety, depression, and burnout are very common as well. We know that they are hugely common in our modern world, but most of us don't realize just how much they're to do with good nourishment. So we'll talk about it: metabolic health, gut health, blood sugar control, as well as proper nutrition. When I did this program that I now coach, what was remarkable was I didn't just lose the weight, but the afternoon slump went and all my joint pain and stiffness. I didn't realize for a few months afterwards, but I thought, oh, I've been stiff and achy in months. Wow. And that's when it really hit me that actually I'd had a health transformation, because I didn't realize it. I was just focusing on the weight loss, but the cravings went as well. So I was much more in control, and I found that I was wanting to eat healthy. This is why it lasted. I was wanting to eat healthy rather than feeling like I had to deprive myself. That was a big difference. My skin improved, allergies improved, and it was 2 dress sizes, which is, I'm bouncy now and it feels lovely. And I'm not on any medication now. Occasionally take an antihistamine, whereas before I was taking them every single day of the year for dust allergies and cat allergies and hay fever, loads better. And I now know which foods and drink trigger my allergies. I know it. It's a direct relationship. More energy, less sleep required, but I sleep well, really, really well. But I don't need 8 hours like I did before. Body confidence, and ditch dieting forever. That's the best thing. One of the best things. I never have to diet again. So how does your current state of health, your symptoms, your energy impact not just your work, but your personal life? I've got 2 slides on this. I put work first because this was it was more of a business presentation that I was doing with this slide. Fatigue, low energy, afternoon slump, lack of motivation, reaching for more and more coffee, and not achieving your potential. Does that resonate for some of you? But personal life, how does it impact on what you get out of life? Your relationship with your family, spending time with our children, depending on where you are in life. But what about how well you honor yourself, the joy, the self-care, the activities that you love? Most of us would say we haven't got the energy for those because we've only got energy to do the absolute minimum, which is caring for everybody else. And when we miss motivation, when we miss the joy in our lives, when we miss the pleasure, the nourishment, the self-care, what happens is we turn to comfort food. And so is this cycle. One of the things that I coach is breaking free from that cycle of comfort eating and then making you feel worse. It costs us more money when we have to go and buy a new wardrobe. I think that's a motivating factor for so many women that come to me. They say, I'm in the next dress size up. I can't wear any of my old clothes. And I'm just about to go to the next dress size. And if I don't do something about it, I'm going to be buying another whole new wardrobe. It's a very real problem. And wanting more out of life. And just how many of us just feel like we're waiting for something to get better before we have the holiday, before we take up swimming, before we take up a dance class, before we put ourselves out there on online dating? How many of us are just waiting until we feel better before we start living? That's what I'm passionate about, because I want the best out of life for everyone. And I want you to discover that unlocking your greatest potential in terms of how much you love your life. And longevity is a big part of that for me. I want to live for many, many more decades because I got so much I want to do. So, Amanda?
I think what immediately comes to mind is feeling happier, more relaxed, more spontaneous. and having more desire to do things like going back to a choir, but also the impact on the relationship. You know, it's just me and my husband, just that feeling of feeling more relaxed and happy. Like I can see how the positive impact there as well.
Yeah, let's talk about we mentioned emotional eating. It's a huge part because I could tell everybody how to eat. It's really simple. I could tell everybody how to eat the way the body evolved to thrive. And yes, we can do it just by going to the supermarket and having a few food prep skills. Could put it on one side of A4. In fact, I could put it on one side of A5. But the problem is just knowing wouldn't change anything. And one of the main reasons for that, one is skills and time and social pressure. But one of the main reasons is food relationship. And that food relationship can be, as we've already mentioned, comfort. Some of us feel like we're addicted to sugar, and we feel like that is a character defect in some way. It's our fault. Oh, I'm an addictive person. No, it's a modern food industry putting sugar in everything that keeps us addicted. Sugar's basically a drug. It's highly refined white powder that was originally plants. It's the same thing as highly refining a drug. And then we put it in our body and the body goes, whoa, because it's not normal. And then we get addicted to it. It's exactly the same mechanism. And so it's not our fault we're addicted to sugar, but we can break free from it. Okay. Now, it's not to say we can't have sugar in our lives. Everybody loves a little bit of sweetness, but it's doing that in a supportive way. This idea that we've got lack of willpower, this, oh, I can't stick to anything. We think it's a character defect. It's all to do with what we say when we talk to ourselves. So let's have a little look about what it is for the people in this room, the people watching on replay. You can do this in your head, but if anybody's got anything they would love to share, then do share. What's your go-to emotional food? There's a few things in this picture that you might choose for relaxation. Chocolates, wine. There's a few things in this picture that you might choose for convenience. Chips, pasties. Biscuits, chocolates, desserts, yeah, crisps. The indulgence of it. The cheese. Cheese can be our go-to. Yeah, feel a bit dependent on cheese. Cheese can be a bit addictive as well. But I think there's a substance in cheese that makes it a bit addictive. Sweets. They're everywhere, aren't they? They're everywhere. Want a bit of a boost? Pick up a packet of sweets. And chocolate means love. Yeah. So Valentine's Day, the most obvious gift on Valentine's Day is chocolate, because chocolate is love. So we've grown up with these associations. Coffee is comfort, especially a latte. Beer and wine, ice cream, pasties, yeah. So pick one that is most obvious for you, most significant for you, and ask yourself this question. No guilt, no judgment, remember, just objective. What emotional state are you trying to change by turning to that food? What emotional state are you trying to satisfy? Emotional need are you trying to satisfy? So with me, the glass of wine was, I was tired. The only thing I could do, have a glass of wine. Chocolate, very often indulgence, treat ourselves. We want to treat ourselves, yeah. We're tired. We just grab something like the pasty, the pastry, the bag of chips. Yeah. And then there's the deeper ones, isn't there? There's the loneliness or feeling like a failure. That kind of, oh, what's the point anyway? And then Venetia says, I now ask myself that, and I try to recognize why. And do I really need it? Yeah. So what emotional state are you trying to change? The strategy here is to, once you've understood what emotional state you're trying to change, if it's connection, if it's I'm lonely, I just want some company, some comfort. When you're in an empowered state, do the work and ask yourself, what other activities or self-care practices could you include in a moment to help? with that emotional state. Don't take the chocolate or the crisps away, because that will cause deprivation and that will make the feelings stronger. But what I want you to do is do an activity that makes you feel connected or comforted. It could be a hot bath, change your clothes, spruce yourself up, hand cream, facial, go out for a walk, cuddle the dog. Do something that makes you feel nourished to meet that emotional need in a more wholesome way and still have the food available to you. Glass of water, and later on see how well you still need it, how well you're still needing that go-to food, and then have it. Just put a little bit of space between wanting it and having it. Do the work. And then when you have it, I want you to ask yourself, how well is this food changing my emotional state? Is this food making me feel more comforted, more rewarded, less stressed? Is the food making me feel better? Usually the answer is no. Sometimes the answer is a little bit, but it doesn't last for long. So just notice. So there's a strategy that you can use with comfort eating. But I want to move on to some of the food secrets. So the way humans evolved to eat, to thrive, wasn't the same all year round because we have seasons. And yes, we would have evolved, perhaps not with spring, summer, autumn, and winter, but we would have had rainy seasons and harvest and barren seasons. So we would have certainly had 3 very different seasons. And you can liken them to spring, summer, autumn, and winter, because the way we evolved to eat in the start of the year, should we say, once we've come through a bit of a barren winter, a harsh winter, whether that was cold or hot, it didn't really matter. There was nothing much around.
Sorry.
So think about winter. There would have been not much around, right? And so we would have basically, if we'd managed to avoid starvation, we'd be coming out of this and there'd be rainy season and the plants would be starting to grow. But this is just the start of the season where green things are growing. Yeah, things are green. Things are not brightly coloured yet. There's not a lot of sugars in our foods yet. The sugars only appeared when the berries started coming out in summer. And then later on, those berries bore bigger fruits. We got the tropical fruits and the food that grows underneath the ground, like the root veg, the carrots, high energy foods that grow under the ground. But it's seasonal because humans evolved to have this high sugar season with all the energy in the foods. That is what put weight on so that we survived through the winter. And then the spring season, we've got the weight off and give us more energy. So there are very distinct ways of eating to get really nourished, gain weight for those that need to gain weight, and then releasing weight, which is spring. Spring is a season of weight release. Winter is fasting, and summer is a lovely balancing season. And yes, it's possible to release weight in all seasons. It doesn't matter what time of the year it is. Framework that I'm talking to you about is just taking that knowledge from nature. And luckily, we do have supermarkets and imports, so we can eat in any season at any time of the year. But it doesn't have to be summer to eat in a summer-like way, and it doesn't have to be spring to eat in a spring-like way. Spring is there for weight release and energy. But the problem we've got in our modern world is that we don't eat seasonally. The way we're eating at the moment, in this day and age, is what I like to call a perpetual dirty autumn. So autumn is a season of high insulin and high fat store, high sugar, high insulin, high fat store in its simplest form. And we're doing that all the time. We're doing that all the time with our chocolates and our biscuits and our crisps and our pasties and our pasta, rice and potatoes. We're doing it every single day because that's the way we've been told to eat. And some of us are doing, some of us are just eating in a reasonably healthy way, but we still got these foods included, and others of us are eating in a much more convenient, fast grab and go. And it doesn't matter where you are on that scale, it's keeping us in a perpetual dirty autumn. So what I coach is how to do clean seasons, how to do clean, and then you get your flexibility and your freedom back. So the program that I coach, the framework that I use that Venetia's been through, is gradually, incrementally, one step at a time, helping you discover a doable way of eating cleaner. We're going to get you towards spring for weight release and energy, and then we're going to introduce a bit of summer for freedom and flexibility, and some autumn for party season, and you can still have your gastronomy. because there's not one season, there's not one way of eating. It depends on what you want. If you want weight release and energy, do spring. If you want balance and maintenance and a little bit of lovely flexibility and freedom, do summer. If it's party time, Christmas, holidays, do autumn. And this is what I teach. So it's picking the season based on what you want out of your life that week, that month. Okay. So it's a mixture, which is another reason why diets don't work, is they don't give you that variety. So let's talk about the 6 human hungers and what keeps us turning to food. Anything coming up before I go to the 6 human hungers? Anything coming up from anything I've said so far? Any questions? But let's talk now about the 6 human hungers really, really quickly. The first one we talked about, this is why I want you all to carry water with you, is because the thirst is the first of the human hungers. Okay, absolutely, thirst makes us want to eat. It's how we evolved to get our water largely through plants. So when we're thirsty, sometimes we turn to food without realizing we're thirsty. So stay properly hydrated. The next one is low blood sugar. And we've talked a lot about that perpetual dirty autumn with all its processed carbohydrates and sugars. And that, of course, spikes our blood sugar, doesn't it? We know now, thanks to the people at Zoe, how important it is to manage our blood sugars. And so when we are experiencing low blood sugar, that is that kind of afternoon type slump type hunger. So I need to eat now. I'm desperately hungry. It's a huge one in the modern world. The next one is nutritional hunger, which is the only real hunger, if you like. We need nourishment. We need protein. We need a whole range of plants. We need a whole range of proteins, amino acids, a whole range of minerals and vitamins. We need that, and the body tells us we need it. And if we're tuning in correctly when we're eating clean, the body will give us a fairly good signal as to what we need. The body will tell you when you need protein, when you need fats, and when you need a bit of fruit. We call that nutritional hunger. It's basically the one genuine hunger. I'm hungry, but what are you hungry for? And in this day and age, we just go straight for the easiest thing. Let me skip empty stomach a minute and just go to variety. So variety hunger, we evolved to eat a huge range of variety. So we have the signal, I don't really want the same thing as I had yesterday. I want something different. Well, it's because we evolved that way, but also we are presented with such a wide range of variety of ready-made foods that we can do it. And so we're choosing all the different flavors of crisps and all the different flavors of chocolate. So variety hunger, although it's there to keep us well, it's actually working against us in the modern food environment. And if we've got an empty stomach, but all those are taken care of, an empty stomach is a good thing. Does that make sense? It's a good thing to have an empty stomach. We're meant to have an empty stomach and be properly nourished. It's called fasting. You do it overnight. Some people don't do it for long enough, but empty stomach is a kind of hunger that we don't want to be constantly feeding. So it's in a different category from the other 5. But essentially, when we learn to satisfy all 5 hungers and cope with an empty stomach, what happens is a few examples, a few case studies. So we've got Catherine, who overcame the sugar cravings. She described herself as a sugar addict. Her IBS completely went, completely. Lovely skin, transformed her skin, and she couldn't tolerate some of the certain foods before, like I can't remember exactly what it was. Maybe it was strawberries, apples, that kind of thing. But she's now enjoying the foods that she couldn't tolerate before. Actually, dramatic weight loss altogether across my 90-day program and then the ongoing for those people, like the advanced version. 5 stone, I think it was for Natalie, but reversing pre-diabetes and joint pain and stiffness, she said, gone completely, and so much more energy. We've covered a few secrets, the 6 human hungers, the way humans designed to eat seasonally, but also food relationship, okay, food relationship and freedom. Nobody would stick to this if there was no freedom. I want you to all enjoy your food. Yes, absolutely. I eat all the things on this picture. You know, I love chocolate. I love a bit of cake, but I'm much more discerning now. And the type of chocolate and the type of cake and when I drink wine, and I probably don't eat pizza, but that's because I don't really like pizza. It's there for us all when we break free from the need for it and we discover what I like to call conscious gastronomy instead. So there's no need to ever be deprived. It's just a new way of thinking about gastronomy. Okay, my darling. So don't worry about that. This is not a deprivation. Yes, it's a boot camp, but out the other side is freedom, as much freedom as you want. Basically, it's a balance. How much freedom do you want? And how much freedom in your body do you want? There's always a balance to be struck. And you will be in control of that balance. So it's about deep behavior change, not just knowing how with food. It's about creating yourselves a new personalized food environment, tackling the behavior change psychology to get you there, and then crafting a lifestyle that truly works to support you. And basically, that's what I coach. I won't go through them. We implement one step at a time, one doable step at a time, so that you feel the benefits straight away. And it's easy, and it's a change that you can easily include in your life going forward. And we do that week by week. And after about 5-6 weeks, you are at a point where the way you're eating is so supportive that you just feel amazing. But each week you will see benefits. We tackle the root causes of emotional eating. I will get you looking at lifestyle factors and self-care practices, letting go of judgment, guilt, disappointment, regret, and replacing that with objective review and planning. So we're going to learn the skills it needs to eat in a supportive way day to day, no matter how busy we are, no matter where we work, no matter how much we're away from the home. You need the skills, and those skills take me several weeks to get across to you, because we need things to come up. We need challenges to come up, and I will coach you through the challenges and show you how to choose from a menu, how to eat when there's a social thing going on. The list goes on. So it's personalized. It needs to be personalized because everybody's different. Everybody's got different challenges. So that personal coaching is a fundamental part of making this work for you. She couldn't move. She couldn't get out of bed. It took her 20 minutes to get out of bed because she had such debilitating back pain. And now she's bouncing around, and I think she's gone down like 4 dress sizes, but that's irrelevant because she feels more alive now with more energy, and she can finally move and have fun with the family. Donna's a really good example of the more diagnosed conditions improving. So some of the things that improved for Donna, and several of my clients actually, symptoms of fibromyalgia, symptoms of chronic fatigue, ME. So that improved, and all the symptoms of perimenopause improved as well. But Donna reversed her diabetes, and about at least 10 of my clients have reversed their diabetes now. I'm also a diabetes reversal coach. And so it's the same program. It does reverse diabetes, and I've actually got the clinical trial to back that up. Wendy, food relationships, sugar cravings. I'm not going to run over more than 5 minutes. If you've been inspired and that's enough for you, then take everything that I've said and go and implement it as best you can. And I'm always here for you. Okay. If you've been inspired and you know that you want a significant improvement in 90 days, then let's go to the next level. Okay. So you're very welcome to keep coming to everything that I do that is free and doing the best you can. And the content that I provide, I will do my best to support you. You know the principles, but knowing isn't the same as guiding you through. So I will guide you through a 90-day journey towards transformation in so many ways that we've talked about. There's always a money back guarantee, because if it doesn't, I'm going to give you your money back. It works for everybody. I've coached 320 people now. I only ever gave one refund. I was only ever asked for one refund 4 years ago. I shouldn't have took her on. She did really, really well. I wanted her to do it to see if breaking free from sugar could improve her inflammation a bit. She said it didn't. I gave her her money back. Since then, I've never had anybody ask me for their money back. But if anybody said, it didn't work for me, Sue, it doesn't mean you have to be 100%. You don't have to be 100%. Nobody does. No program would work if you had to be 100%. You just do the best you can. If you're struggling, I will provide you with a solution. You will not be expected to find your own solutions. You check in with me. It's a group program. You check in with me on a Monday and a Friday on Zoom, just like this. You tell me where you're struggling. I will provide a suggested solution. You'll go off and try it. And usually in a week, it's like, oh yeah, I tried that. That worked. And now I'm doing it every day. So I'm the one who's going to solve the problems. All you need to do is show up and give it your best shot. Okay. You don't have to be perfect. So if that's what you would like to explore, jump on a call with me. We don't kick off until September now. So there's plenty of time to jump on a call with me. Just book on a chat with me. Let's have a chat and find out what could be possible for you, whether you think it's the right fit for you. We'll talk about financing it, okay? Because there's a range of finance options, a range of prices. So how do you book? I'm going to type a link. There's a link to book a health empowerment call with me. We talk about where you are, what's going on for you, what you've tried before, what you'd like to achieve. And then because of having coached 320 and having so many success stories, I will be able to give you a fairly good idea of what could be possible for you. We'll talk about pricing options, payment plans. Some of you may need to approach me for affordability options. That's always a possibility. I don't ever want anybody to have affordability in the way of being able to get a life-changing health transformation. So talk to me. If money is a problem, still book that call and we'll see what we can do.